Hello, I'm Shona Hutchings. Welcome back to my channel, Creative Zone. In this video, I'll be sharing with you how I made a boxed bottom bag. That's a bit of a tricky thing to say, a boxed bottom bag. And how I stenciled the pocket with a Koala Stencil and did some free stitching. So I'm going to show you how I put that all together. And I hope you enjoy it and can use the bag if you decide to make one. So I used a white cotton calico to make this bag. To start with, just make a snip and tear the selvage away from the fabric on both sides. And then for the pocket, I cut two pieces measuring 20 centimetres wide by 24 centimetres long. I'm using a Koala Stencil, I'll leave a link in the notes below, and a foam roller. I'm using Atelier Gesso Primer white, but you could use any white acrylic paint or fabric paint. And I'm using the golden Payne's grey just to get a mix to get a grey colour that I'd like for the koalas. So I'm just going to mix these two until I reach the blend that I like. Just going to speed that up for you so you don't have to watch the whole blending process. You could choose to paint your koalas another colour. However, I like this as a base to do the stitching on top of. So I just use a firm pressure, pushing the paint as much as possible into the fabric. And as you can see, it's come out quite well. Then I leave it to dry while I get on with the rest of it. Measure and cut two strips of fabric, 10 centimetres wide by 58 centimetres long. And then measure and cut four pieces of fabric, each one 46 centimetres square. Next, cut a 5 centimetre square out of the corner of the bottom, or two corners of the bottom of each of those four pieces of fabric. It should look like this when you've finished. 5 centimetres square equals 2.5 inches. Then we're going to get that dried square for the pocket. I'm using my brother Innov'is sewing machine and this free stitching foot. And as you can see, I'm using a brown thread and I'm just going over the wooden or the wood part of the stencil. I'm just doing a squiggly pattern all over the log. Makes it quite easy to move the fabric underneath it. And as you can see, I've also stitched an outline around the koala and her baby, just to help them stand out a little bit more. And I did some free stitching in their eyes to make the eye, and around and inside the nose as well of both the koalas. These free stitching foots are available at any sewing centre near you. And that's the finished. I was quite happy with that. The finished outline for the pocket. So then I turned it right sides together and stitched around all the sides, leaving this small hole so I could turn it right side out again. So you just push it through, and here I'm just using the end of a brush to just get those corners pushed out. And so that's the lined pocket, and all we need to do now is just stitch this, the hole, but I'm going to stitch it across that because that's the, I've decided that's going to be the top of the pocket. So I'm going to stitch all the way along, very close to the edge. I also stitched a little handmade sign on there. So pin the pocket to the right side of one of the pieces of fabric for the bag. Measure 12 centimetres from the top and approximately 12 centimetres on either side, and then stitch 3 sides, leaving the top open. And here's the finished pocket. Then I'm putting the right sides together of the actual bags. There's the lining and then the bag. And then I'm just stitching them together. You can pin or peg yours beforehand, but I don't. And once you get down to where you've cut the squares out at the bottom, you just slide the other corner around and continue stitching going along the bottom of the bag across to the other corner. And you're going to do the same thing where it's been cut into in the other corner. So just going to swing that around and stitch it together. Continue stitching up the side of the bag and then back stitch at the top to finish. And here is your boxed corner. So you're just going to stretch that, flatten out the seams, and then stitch across the hole. And that is what will make the boxed corners. Again, you can pin or peg yours before you stitch. As you can see, I haven't done that myself, just a free stitching kind of gal. And I also do a zigzag across mine. You don't have to, but I like to reinforce it that way. Next, take the 2 strips for the handles of the bag and fold each lengthwise across the middle. Then you're going to open that up and fold the sides into the middle crease. And you can press those down with an iron if you want to. I don't have an iron, so it's easy just to push it down with my thumbnail. And then you're going to fold that over yet again to make a thin strip. So fold it from the middle across, and then I did peg it the full length. And then back to the sewing machine and just stitching straight stitch close to the edge all round, and there's no need to back stitch on the straps. Turning the lining bag right side out, we're going to pin the handles to the top of one side, or one handle, sorry, to the top of one side. And I've just measured 12 centimetres from the side of the bag in, and that's where I'm going to place the handle. And then there's a gap in the middle of also of about 12 centimetres, and pinning the other handle strap. Flipping the bag over, you're going to do the same thing with the other handle, and then take it to the sewing machine and stitch. I go backwards and forwards over to reinforce the handle a couple of times. And then I'm going to stuff the lining bag into the other part of the bag, the one that has the pocket sewn onto it, so that the right sides of both are together. Looks a bit confusing here, and it does when you're actually doing it, but if you just make sure that both right sides of the bags are together and that the handles are inside as well. Then you're going to be flattening the seams. You can iron the seams to make it easier. It was a little bit fiddly with them not being ironed. Flatten the seams, and then I'm pegging them, pegging both seams first, and then the other side, and then all round the tops of both pieces of fabric. And you want to leave a gap, a hole, because you're going to be turning the bag inside or right side out again at the end. And then it's back to the sewing machine to stitch. Then you turn the bag, I've missed a step here, but you turn the bag inside or right side out, and then you're going to be stitching very close to the edge all the way round the bag and closing up that hole. I think I got carried away and didn't film that step. My apologies. So just stitching all the way around the bag. And then I like to, it's not a necessary to do, but I like to stitch also on the outside of the boxed bottom, just a very close to the edge straight stitch. just on that boxed corner. And that's the bag finished. Once that's done, and here it is, hanging on the door. It's got a really nice sized pocket, and because it's got a lining, the bag is reversible, so you can turn it inside out and have the pocket on the inside of the bag. This is going to be a gift for a friend. I'm very happy with how it turned out, and wishing you well if you give it a go. Thanks for watching. In this video I'm going to be sharing how I made a bottom, I'm Shona Hutchings, and I've got something in my eye.